So today we are going to continue with the topic that we have started last class, that is your adrenal glands. Okay. So we had started with your adrenal cortex hormones, and uh, today we will study the mineralocorticoids and your sex steroids. Glucocorticoids, mainly your cortisol, has already been completed. Okay, so after today's class we are going to discuss some of the important viva questions in your endocrine system. Okay, so you are preparing yourselves for your viva examinations, I think so. So we can discuss some of the important viva questions after we finish our class today. So starting with mineralocorticoids, just have an introduction to mineralocorticoids. So three hormones are included in your mineralocorticoids. First one is your aldosterone. Okay, so next one is your deoxycorticosterone, and the next is 18-hydroxy deoxycorticosterone. So three hormones: aldosterone, deoxycorticosterone, and your 18-hydroxy deoxycorticosterone. Now we will study in details about the corticosterone. As I have told you last class, aldosterone is termed as a life-saving hormone. Okay, and cortisol was termed as what type of hormone, if you remember? Anyone of you can tell me? Aldosterone is a life-saving hormone. Am I audible? Okay. So if mineralocorticoids are life-saving hormone, what are glucocorticoids? Okay, if mineralocorticoids are life-saving hormone, what are glucocorticoids? Any one of you? Yes, life protecting hormone. So why is aldosterone termed as your life saving hormone? There are three different reasons. The important reason for why aldosterone is termed as your life saving hormone is because aldosterone helps in a reabsorption of sodium from your renal tubules. This is the very main important reason. Okay, reabsorption of sodium from renal tubules. Next is your excretion of potassium. Okay, excretion of potassium. Okay, and the last one is your secretion of hydrogen ion. Okay, so three: reabsorption of sodium, excretion of potassium, and secretion of hydrogen. For all these three reasons, aldosterone is termed as your life saving hormone. Okay, so what is the mode of action of aldosterone? It acts through your messenger mRNA mechanism, that you know how. Okay, so the hormone will bind with the specific receptor protein, and it will form a complex the hormone and the receptor complex. Here it is your aldosterone receptor complex. Then it will diffuse into the nucleus. There it will bind with your DNA and cause the formation of your mRNA. Okay, and mRNA again will diffuse back to the cytoplasm and will cause your protein synthesis along with your ribosome. So the mode of action of aldosterone is through your messenger or mRNA mechanism. Is that clear? Okay. Now coming to the functions of aldosterone. Okay, so in the functions of aldosterone, it is divided into two types. One is your primary actions of aldosterone and the other one is your secondary actions or the effects of your aldosterone. Okay, in primary action of aldosterone, aldosterone affects or it has an effect on your renal tubules. This is the first important action of aldosterone. Okay, and except for your renal tubules, aldosterone has effect on your sweat glands, salivary glands and colon. Okay, so it has effect on your renal tubules, sweat glands, salivary glands and colon. These are termed as your primary actions of aldosterone. The secondary actions of aldosterone is that it affects on your plasma potassium concentration. Okay, plasma potassium concentration and your plasma sodium levels. So these are your secondary effects of aldosterone. Okay, so primary effects are on your renal tubules and sweat glands, salivary glands, colon. Secondary effects are on your potassium and sodium concentration. Okay, so the primary action of aldosterone, okay, it affects first one, sodium reabsorption from tubular fluid into your renal tubular epithelial cell. Then your potassium excretion, that is active reabsorption of sodium occurs in exchange of potassium and hydrogen. Hydrogen excretion, it enhances your tubular secretion of hydrogen as sodium is reabsorbed, and ammonium and magnesium excretion is increased by your aldosterone. Okay, now what is the mechanism of action of aldosterone on your renal tubules? How does it affects your renal tubules? Mechanism of action. So it happens because aldosterone promotes AIP. Okay, remember AIP. It is, the full form is aldosterone induced protein. Okay, aldosterone induced protein. It is a specific protein synthesis, okay, which will increase your sodium reabsorption. Okay, so aldosterone will promote AIP, which increases your sodium reabsorption. What are the mechanism by which sodium reabsorption increases? First mechanism is it will increase the membrane permeability of your tubular cells of kidney. Okay, so increase membrane permeability of tubular cells. Next, it will it will increase the content of sodium potassium ATPase at the basal surface of your renal tubular cells. The numbers will increase. Okay, sodium potassium ATPase number. One more important is will increase your Krebs cycle enzyme. Okay, Krebs cycle, its activity is mainly on which organelle? Mitochondria. Okay, so by promoting AIP, okay, aldosterone will increase your Krebs cycle enzyme activity in your mitochondria. Okay, so this is the mechanism by which aldosterone will act on your renal tubules. Okay, by promoting AIP. AIP full form is aldosterone induced protein. It is a specific type of protein synthesis. Okay, and the end result is your increase in your sodium reabsorption. Okay, understood? Okay, then the next effect is on effects on your sweat glands, salivary glands and colon. Okay, sweat glands and salivary glands produce secretions which contain large amount of NaCl. Now, NaCl is absorbed as secretion passes through ducts, and potassium and hydrocarbon are excreted. Bicarbonate are excreted. Aldosterone will decrease your loss of sodium and chloride in sweat and salivary secretion. So sodium chloride absorbed as secretion passes through ducts. Okay, and aldosterone decreases the loss of sodium and chloride in sweat and salivary secretion. In colon, aldosterone stimulates sodium reabsorption from colon and potassium excretion in your feces. Okay, so this is the effect of aldosterone on your sweat glands, salivary glands and colon. Now coming to the secondary effects of aldosterone. Okay, as I told you, it has effect on two, that is your potassium concentration, plasma potassium concentration and your plasma sodium concentration. Okay, so for plasma potassium concentration there will be hypokalemia, that is decrease in your plasma potassium levels, which occurs when there is aldosterone excess. Okay, due to increased urinary excretion of potassium. Now next, hyperkalemia. Again it occurs due to your aldosterone deficiency. Now what is the effect on your plasma sodium level? Hypernatremia. It occurs in excessive aldosterone, which will lead to excess ECF volume. Hypertension may occur due to excess sodium and water retention. Hyponatremia, it occurs due to excess sodium loss in aldosterone insufficiency. Okay, now tell me why ECF volume increases in your hypernatremia. I told you increase in ECF volume. Okay, why ECF volume increases in hypernatremia? Have you understood my question? Okay, who will tell me what happens to the ECF volume, why it increases during your hypernatremia? Yes. Water is reabsorbed along with sodium. Sakshi, very good. Okay. Absorption, yes. Again, Falguni, very good. It's due to your osmotic pressure, which is created by the absorption of your sodium ions. Water absorption takes place. Very good. Okay. So this is the reason why ECF volume increases in your hypernatremia. Okay, so here you come across a term, that is your aldosterone escape phenomenon. What is this? Aldosterone escape phenomenon. Okay, during your hyperaldosteronism, okay, or when your aldosterone is administered for several days to a normal individual, there will be increase in your sodium and water absorption by your renal tubules. Okay, so when there is increase in sodium and water reabsorption, that means it will increase your ECF volume and there will be hypertension. But after 10 to 15% of increase in ECF volume, there will occur a change termed as your pressure diuresis. Okay, so what happens in this pressure diuresis? That means excretion of sodium and water in urine is increased, okay, in spite of continuous action of aldosterone. So sodium and water excretion in your urine is increased in spite of continuous action of aldosterone. Okay, why this happens? This occurs due to the increased secretion of a hormone termed as your ANP. Okay, full form atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP. Okay, so this is your aldosterone escape phenomenon. And what are the procedure or what are the stages which involved your aldosterone escape phenomenon? This is increased reabsorption of salt and water by aldosterone will cause your ECF expansion. Okay, so increased ECF volume increases venous return to the heart, that will cause further distension of atria during their filling. Now after this, atrial stretching increases synthesis and secretion of ANP from your atrial myocytes. Now ANP causes profound natriuresis and diuresis. Okay, and ECF volume returns back to your normal. So this is termed as your aldosterone escape phenomenon. Why? Because kidney escapes from the effect of aldosterone. Okay. So only after 10 to 15% increase in your ECF, the pressure diuresis will occur, and after also a continuous excretion of aldosterone, there will be excretion of sodium and water in your urine. Okay, have you understood? So this may come as your give reason or one word question. Okay, aldosterone escape for phenomenon, what happens? Now coming to the regulation of aldosterone secretion. Okay, now regulation of aldosterone secretion is mainly by three substances. One is your angiotensin 2, next is your plasma potassium plasma potassium, and the other one is your ACTH. Okay, What is, again you have known the renin angiotensin system mechanism. Okay, angiotensin 2, what is the function of this angiotensin 2? It will increase your secretion of aldosterone and will control the ECF volume, thereby controlling your blood pressure. Okay, now conditions that alter your aldosterone secretion: increased secretion by your hemorrhage, hypervolemia, hyperkalemia, hypernatremia, standing, anxiety, physical trauma and surgery. Okay, then your secondary hyperaldosteronism. Okay, aldosterone secretion may increase in your congestive heart failure, cirrhosis of liver and nephrotic syndrome. Conditions that decrease secretion is the expansion of ECF volume, hypernatremia and hypokalemia. Okay, so mainly regulation is by your 3 angiotensin and your angiotensin 2 via your renin angiotensin system. Okay, then next plasma potassium level, role of ACTH. Okay, now coming to the renin angiotensin system. Now aldosterone secretion is increased 4 to 8 times by your renin angiotensin system. Okay, so this is the effect of aldosterone renin angiotensin system on your aldosterone. Okay, so what is this renin angiotensin system? What are the steps involved in your renin angiotensin system? Okay, recapitulate, we will study in the next slide. Now, secretion of aldosterone is influenced by changes in circulating fluid volume which are sensed in your kidney, and from signals arising from your kidney increases your aldosterone secretion when ECF volume is decreased and vice versa. What are the conditions associated with decreased ECF? Sodium deprivation, hemorrhage, upright posture for several hours and acute diuresis. Now, what are the steps involved in secretion of aldosterone by renin angiotensin system? Okay, so if you remember this renin angiotensin system, in short I am telling you. So whenever there is decrease in ECF volume, that will decrease your renal arterial blood pressure and your renal perfusion pressure. Okay, when this decreases, the JG cells of your afferent arteriole will secrete your renin. Now renin will act like the catalyst to convert angiotensin into your angiotensin 1. Okay, now from angiotensin 1 to your angiotensin 2, there is a enzyme involved, that is your angiotensin converting enzyme, ACE. Okay, angiotensin converting enzyme, that will help in the conversion of angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2. Now angiotensin 2 will increase your secretion of aldosterone. How? It will bind with your specific plasma membrane receptor present in your zona glomerulosa cells. Okay, so decrease in ECF volume, decrease in pressure, that will affect your JG cells to secrete renin. Renin will act on angiotensin to convert angiotensin into it will act on angiotensinogen to convert it into angiotensin 1. Now angiotensin 1 will convert into angiotensin 2 with the help of an enzyme, angiotensin converting enzyme. Okay, angiotensin 2 will increase your secretion of aldosterone. So these are the steps involved in your renin angiotensin system. Okay, so this diagram again shows you, okay, how this renin-angiotensin system acts on your zona glomerulosa cells to increase your aldosterone. Now the regulation of aldosterone secretion, okay, increase in potassium concentration, decrease in sodium concentration and decrease in ECF volume will stimulate your JG cells to secrete your renin, that will convert angiotensinogen into angiotensin through an enzyme. Angiotensin 1 will convert into angiotensin 2, that will affect on adrenal cortex to secrete your aldosterone. Aldosterone will act on kidneys. Kidneys will excrete, there will be excretion of your potassium, retention of sodium and retention of water, and that will ultimately decrease your potassium concentration, increase your sodium concentration and increase your ECF volume. So the total feedback inhibition mechanism, okay, regulation of aldosterone secretion. Now, what are the factors that affect your aldosterone secretion by your renin-angiotensin system? Okay, sympathetic neural activity. It enhances your renin release in response to a hypovolemic. Local prostaglandins. It will stimulate your renin release. Again, ANP reinforces your effects of renin-angiotensin system on your aldosterone secretion. Sympathetic neural activity, local prostaglandins and NP. Have you understood till now the role of renin-angiotensin system? Any doubt? Okay. Now the next one is your plasma potassium concentration. Okay. The increase in plasma concentration by only 0.5 milliequivalent per liter will immediately rise the plasma aldosterone level to 3-fold. Okay, and decrease in plasma potassium concentration in potassium depletion lowers your aldosterone secretion. Is that clear? Now, role of ACTH. Direct stimulating effect of ACTH on aldosterone secretion is very mild and transient. Okay, ACTH will stimulate secretion of deoxycortisone from your zona fasciculata, which will have very mild mineralocorticoid activity. So the role of ACTH is mild and transient. So we have finished with the regulation. Okay. Now coming to this is the sum up why aldosterone is termed as your life-saving hormone. What happens during deficiency of aldosterone? Okay. So decrease in sodium and chloride concentration in ECF, decrease in ECF volume, decrease in blood volume, cardiac function, circulatory shock, increase in potassium concentration in ECF, cardiac toxicity, arrhythmia and cardiac death. Now coming to the last hormone of adrenal cortex, it is your adrenal sex steroids. Okay, so we don't have to study in details about this, just remember what are the adrenal sex steroids. So I had told you last class DHEA, that is dihydroepiandrosterone, and its sulfate DHEAS, androstenedione. estrogen and progesterone to a very small amount. Okay, now what are the usefulness of this sex steroids? Okay, secretion increases at puberty, will reach peak at about 20 years of age, and will decline slowly to reach a low level at your old age, and the secretions are controlled by your ACTH. Okay, so DHEA, androstenedione, the sulfate ester of DHEAS, then you have a small amounts of estrogen and progesterone. Okay, so we have finished with your glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, and your adrenal sex steroids. The last portion of this topic is your applied aspect. Again, very important part in your endocrine system. Okay, the diseases related to your hormones. Okay. Before we go in details about the diseases of your adrenal cortex, okay, it is divided, or there are three important diseases that are associated with your adrenal cortex. One is, what is the response of stress to your hormones secreted by your adrenal gland. Okay, response of stress, very important. So this topic we will study after we complete your adrenal medulla. Now next two is your hyperactivity of your adrenal cortex and hypoactivity of your adrenal cortex. Okay, so as you all know, hyperactivity of adrenal cortex, again three diseases according to the hormones. Okay, Cushing syndrome for your glucocorticoids, then you have Conn's syndrome for your mineralocorticoids, and last one is your adrenogenital syndrome. Okay, Cushing syndrome, Conn's syndrome, and your adrenogenital syndrome. Now next is your, this is your hyperactivity. Okay, now hypoactivity of adrenal cortex, two, that is your Addison's disease, and the other one is your congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Okay, now coming to your Cushing's syndrome. Who will tell me what is the difference between a Cushing's disease and a Cushing's syndrome? Anyone? What is the difference between your Cushing's disease and your Cushing's syndrome? So we have already studied about the Cushing's disease in a previous chapter of endocrine gland. Okay, who will tell me which gland also? Which gland? Pituitary. Yes, Cushing's Shraddha. Cushing's disease is caused by your pituitary tumor. Very good, very good. And Cushing's syndrome occurs due to the tumor of your adrenal cortex. Very good. So this is the difference between a Cushing's disease and your Cushing's syndrome. Now Cushing's syndrome was discovered by a scientist named as your Harvey Cushing. Okay, According to his name, the disease name came up, Harvey-Cushing. Okay. Now it is a pathological conditions that occurs due to your hypersecretion of your glucocorticoids. Etiology, it occurs either due to tumor of your adrenal cortex that causes your cortisol excess. Okay, this is your termed as your ACTH independent, or due to the tumor of your pituitary that increases the secretion of ACTH, and this is termed as your ACTH dependent. Okay, and this is again termed as your Cushing's disease. It refers to the disease that occurs only due to ACTH producing tumor of pituitary, whereas Cushing syndromes refer to all causes of cortisol excess. Okay. Now coming to the causes of Cushing syndrome. First one, adrenal hyperplasia. It occurs secondary to pituitary ACTH producing tumors. Okay. Hypothalamo-pituitary dysfunction, ectopic ACTH or CRH producing tumors such as your bronchogenic carcinoma. Now adrenal tumors, adrenal macronodular hyperplasia, familial adrenal dysplasia, and your prolonged and excessive use of ACTH or cortisol. Okay, so these are the causes for your Cushing's syndrome tumors. Okay, adrenal hyperplasia, adrenal tumors, adrenal macronodular hyperplasia, familiar adrenal dysplasia, and your prolonged and excessive use of ACTH or cortisol. Now coming to the signs and symptoms. Okay, for signs and symptoms, you have to remember some of the terms here. Okay, clinical or centripetal obesity. What is it? Okay, that is your excessive distribution of fat on your abdominal wall, back and face, and for each you have a specific term. Okay, buffalo hump. What is this term? Buffalo hump. This is collection of excessive fat on your upper back, that is just below your neck. Okay, upper back. Next is your moon face, that is excessive fat collection on your face, and the end one is your purple striae, or you have cutaneous abdominal striae or livid stretch mark. Okay, so here the skin and the cutaneous tissue will become thin due to protein catabolism. Now, after this there will be stretching of your abdominal skin due to excessive subcutaneous fat deposition, thereby causing rupture of your subdermal tissue, producing your reddish purple striae. So three different terms: buffalo hump, moon face, purple striae. Okay, this is your obesity. Okay, so here is a photograph of a patient with your Cushing's disease, which shows the obesity, and here you can see the purple striae on the abdomen. Next is signs is your muscle weakness. Backaches may happen due to excessive protein catabolism. Then you have sodium and water retention, which will cause your weight gain, edema, hypertension. Hyperglycemia, which occurs due to your gluconeogenesis and inhibition of peripheral utilization of glucose, and it may lead to your glycosuria and adrenal diabetes. Menstrual irregularity, which will occur due to your increased adrenal androgens. Susceptibility to osteoporosis and bone fracture increased due to your protein depletion and your bone resorption. Okay, now there will be proximal myopathy. Okay, what is this? The legs, proximal part of your body, that is your legs, will become very thin. Okay, the hyperglycemia also will lead to your poor wound healing. Okay, susceptibility to infection, it is increased due to your immunosuppression. Psychological, emotional and personality changes occurs due to the CNS effects of your glucocorticoids. Blackening of skin, okay, it occurs due to the pigmentation caused by your excessive ACTH, and susceptibility to peptic ulceration is increased. And here you will have a very common symptom, that is hyperacidity. Okay, hyperacidity. So these are the signs and symptoms. Tunical or centripetal opacity, that is your buffalo hump, moon face, purple stray. Then you have muscle weakness, sodium and water retention, hyperglycemia, menstrual irregularity, osteoporosis, bone fracture, proximal myopathy. Patients are more susceptible to your infection and peptic ulcer. Then you have blackening of skin, and there will be psychological, emotional and personality changes. Here is the feature of your Cushing syndrome. Okay, buffalo hump, thinning of hair, psychosis, centripetal obesity, okay, infections, plethora, moon face. Proximal myopathy, okay, osteoporosis, easy bruisability, hyperglycemia, hypertension and your peptic ulcer. Okay, so these are the signs and symptoms of Cushing's syndrome. So we are over with Cushing syndrome. The next is your hyperaldosteronism. Okay, hyperaldosteronism or your Conn's disease. So overproduction of hormone aldosterone, which is a major sodium retaining hormone. Two types: primary hyperaldosteronism or Conn's disease and secondary hyperaldosteronism. So the Conn's disease occurs due to tumor or hyperplasia of zona glomerulosa of adrenal cortex. Okay, tumor or hyperplasia of zona glomerulosa of adrenal cortex. Secondary hyperaldosteronism, it occurs due to the extra-adrenal cause, which stimulates your renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. That is your nephrotic syndrome, cirrhosis of liver and congestive heart failure. Then the characteristic features. Sodium and water retention will lead to your hypertension and edema. Hypokalemia will increase your potassium excretion, which will produce your muscle weakness due to hydrogen into your renal tubule may produce your hypocalcemia causing tetany. Okay, hypertension, edema, muscle weakness and tetany. These are the characteristic features of your hyperaldosteronism. Then the third one, that is your adrenogenital syndrome, and it occurs due to your hyperactivity of your adrenal steroids. So androgen precursors, when they are secreted in your larger amounts, will as in tumor of zona reticularis of adrenal cortex, there will be abnormal features. So in prepubertal males, excessive androgens will produce your pseudo puberty. In males, estrogen producing cells may produce female like secondary sexual characters. Okay. For example, enlargement of breast, atrophy of testes, loss of libido, and feminine body. And in females, it will cause development of male secondary sexual characters such as a beard, muscular body, breaking of voice, okay, male type hair growth, enlargement of clitoris, and amenorrhea. So this is your characteristics. This is your adrenogenital syndrome, features in your prepubertal males and your females. So we have finished with the hyperactivity of adrenal cortex. Okay, 3 diseases: Cushing syndrome, Conn syndrome, and your adrenogenital syndrome. Now coming to the hypoactivity of adrenal cortex. In hypoactivity of adrenal cortex, okay, so depending upon the lesion where it is present, okay, it is divided into your 2 types: hypoactivity, primary and secondary. The primary is termed as your primary adrenocortical deficiency. Primary adrenocortical deficiency, when it occurs when there is your high ACTH levels, and the diseases are your Addison's disease or your chronic adrenal insufficiency, and the next is your congenital adrenal hyperplasia, Addison's disease and congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Now the secondary one is termed as your secondary adrenocortical deficiency, and it occurs due to low ACTH level. Okay, so Addison's disease or chronic adrenal insufficiency, it occurs due to your chronic deficiency of hormones, which are through the 3 different zones of your adrenal cortex. The glucocorticoid insufficiency produces your weight loss, anorexia, nausea, vomiting, weakness, and diarrhea. Mineralocorticoid deficiency will produce your hyponatremia, hyperkalemia, acidosis, and decreased ECF volume with your hypotension. And loss of androgens will cause sparse hair in females. Okay, so glucocorticoid insufficiency, mineralocorticoid deficiency, and the loss of androgens or your sex steroids. Now this one is your primary. Coming to the secondary, congenital adrenal hyperplasia. It is caused by a congenital deficiency of 21 hydroxylase deficiency, required for the synthesis of your both enzymes are required for the synthesis of your sex steroids. Okay. Characteristic features: growth leading to stocky appearance called Hercules, and causes sexual development with your enlarged penis even at the age of 4 years. For females, high plasma androgen levels, which will cause masculinized pattern of development, or otherwise termed as your virilism. And the female fetus may be born with a male type of external genitalia called your pseudo hermaphroditism. Okay, so the characteristic features different for boys and female fetus. Okay, in boys mainly your infant Hercules, and for in your female fetus virilism and pseudo hermaphroditism. So we are over with the applied aspect of adrenal cortex. Okay, so next class we are going to study the adrenal medulla. Okay, so the class is not over. Okay, So we are going now to discuss. Okay, I'll ask you some of the questions that are commonly put forth to you during your Viva examination. Okay, so in the next coming days you are going to face your Viva. Okay, so let's just have a brief question answer sessions. Okay, so what you are going to expect in your Viva. Okay, so okay, so I want all of you to answer. Okay, the one which I am specifically going to mention, okay, that you can go for it. Okay, to start with endocrinology, the first thing that comes up is what is a hormone. Okay, so what is a hormone? So what are chemical messengers? Okay, and how many types of chemical messengers are present? Yes, what are hormone is a chemical messenger, okay, secreted by an endocrine gland or a ductless gland. Okay, now what are the different types of chemical messengers? Okay, if you have a pen and paper, you just can write down. No, it's not of two types, Mayank. So it is of four types. One is your endocrine messenger, neurocrine messenger, paracrine messenger, and autocrine messenger. Yes, four types of chemical messengers. Okay, endocrine messenger, neurocrine messenger, your paracrine messenger, and your autocrine messenger. Okay, now if you have to classify your hormones, okay, how many types? Hormones are classified into how many types? Is it 2 or 3? Peptide and steroids. Okay, 3 types. It is 3 types: steroid, protein, and hormones that are derived from your amino acid tyrosine. Yes, derivative of tyrosine, proteins, and steroids. Okay, coming then hormones, chemical messenger over. Then what are the examples of steroid hormones? Okay, examples of steroid hormones. Okay, examples, or how will you classify steroid hormones? Examples. Okay, then how will you classify or give example for your protein hormones? Okay, yes, so you are all studying, I think so. So all the best for your next examination. Okay, and what are the examples of your amino acid derivatives? Okay, who will tell me what are the examples of your amino acid derivatives? Which hormones come under them? Which hormone comes under your amino acid derivative? Epinephrine, correct. Norepinephrine, correct. One more. Thyroxine. Okay, thyroxine, yes, correct. Okay, now the glands. Okay, we are over with it. We are over. Okay, classify hormones by giving some examples. We are over with it. Now okay, a gland will be asked, and you have to tell the hormone secreted by the gland. Okay, hypothalamus, quickly. Hypothalamus. Growth hormone, releasing hormone, TRH. Yes. Okay. Next gland. Okay, over. Next gland is your anterior pituitary. FSH doesn't come. FSH doesn't come under your hypothalamus. Okay. FSH, Neha. It is growth hormone, releasing hormone, TRH and CRH. Okay, anterior pituitary, FSH. Okay, so your anterior pituitary hormones, yes, TSH, ACTH, growth hormone, FSH, LH, prolactin. Yes. Now coming to your posterior pituitary. Yes, posterior pituitary, ADH. Yes, very good. Oxytocin. Correct. Now thyroid. Best. Thyroid is your thyroxine. Okay, T3 and T4. Okay. Parathyroid, T3, T4 and thyroxine. Okay. Parathyroid, parathormone or calcitonin. Very good. Okay, so we have already completed all this endocrine glands. Now the next one will be your adrenal cortex. Okay, cortisol, corticosterone, aldosterone. Yes, androgen, estrogens and progesterone, steroid hormone. Yes, correct. Now, okay, now coming to the adrenal medulla. Okay, DHEA also. Okay, adrenal medulla, you have two hormones, that is your adrenaline and noradrenaline, catecholamines. Very good, correct. Now testes for your testosterone. Kidney. Okay, kidney will have your erythropoietin, vitamin D3, has ANF. Okay, placenta. Okay, who will tell me what are the hormones secreted from placenta? HCG. Correct. HCG. HPL. Very good. Estrogen and progesterone. Very good. Ovary, only your estrogen and progesterone. So we have seen so many organs with their hormones. Okay, so anything will be asked. Okay. Now next question. What do you mean by your hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal vessel? Okay, one question. Hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal vessel. And what is hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract? Okay, two different things. One is your portal vessel, other one is your tract. Okay, so the vascular connections of your hypothalamus through your yes, that is your portal vessels, and the neurohypophysis connected with your hypothalamus is your tract. Yes. Okay, next question. Classify anterior pituitary cells histologically. Classify anterior. Okay, Shubham has written hypothalamic hypophyseal portal circulation collects blood from capillaries originating from in the hypothalamus. Okay, very good. Okay, now Okay, very good. Now how do you classify anterior pituitary gland cells histologically? Yes, chromophils and chromophobes. Very good, Mushkan. Chromophils and chromophobe cells. Very good. Okay, now one more question. Where are the hormonal receptors situated in your target cells? Where are the hormonal receptors situated in your target cells? Okay, is it cell membrane for all types of hormones? Yes. Okay. Thyroid hormones are situated, the receptors are situated in your nucleus. Remember, receptors for thyroid hormones are situated in your nucleus. Receptors for your steroid hormones are situated in your cytoplasm. Okay, and the receptors for your protein hormones are situated in your cell membrane. Cell membrane for protein hormones, steroid hormones is your cytoplasm, and thyroid hormones are in your nucleus. Okay, so so what are the mechanism of action of different types of hormones? Mechanism of action of different types of hormones. Okay, water soluble, not that way out. It is by altering the permeability of cell membrane. Okay, that is for your neurotransmitters. Then through your second messenger. Very good, very good. And genes also, involvement of genes, that is for your steroid hormones. Yes, yes. Okay. Steroids by your genes, and protein hormones by your second messenger system, and the cell permeability is for your neurotransmitters. Yes. Now give some examples of second messenger. Give some example of second messenger. Cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, calcium. Very good. Have you come across the term DAG? DAG. Okay, what is the full form of DAG? Yes, diacyl glycerol. Very good. So DAG. Very good, very good. Okay, so you have cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, calcium, DAG. Okay, calmodulin. Okay, now what are G proteins? What are G proteins? Receptor. Okay, so these hormone receptor. Okay, so these are your membrane proteins. Okay, in which the receptor proteins are attached. Yes. Guanosine nucleotide binding protein. Guanosine nucleotide binding protein. Now name the different parts of anterior pituitary. Name the different parts of anterior pituitary. Parts of anterior pituitary. Okay, pars distalis, correct. Pars tuberalis and pars intermedia. Distalis, tuberalis and intermedia. Yes, correct. Now, what are the cells in your anterior pituitary? Cells in your anterior pituitary? No, somatotropes, corticotropes, thyrotropes, okay, gonadotropes. So these are the different types of cells in your anterior pituitary. Yes, lactotropes, correct. Okay, somatotropes, corticotropes, thyrotropes, gonadotropes and lactotropes. Okay, how is your anterior pituitary regulated? What are the hormones which regulate your anterior pituitary? Those are termed as your regulating or releasing hormones. Releasing hormone. Yes, anterior pituitary is regulated by your hypothalamus by your secretion of releasing and inhibitory hormones. Okay. And through your hypothalamo hypophyseal portal vessels. Growth hormone releasing hormone, correct. Growth hormone releasing polypeptide, correct. Thyrotropic releasing hormone, very good. Corticotropin releasing hormone, CRH, good. Okay, and the last one is gonadotropin releasing hormone. Yes, yes, very good, very good. Now name the inhibitory hormones which control your anterior pituitary. Growth hormone, inhibitory hormone, Muskan, correct. Prolactin inhibiting hormone, correct. Simran, okay. Amrutmai, Paridhi, okay, correct, very good. Now, okay, what are the different functions of growth hormone you have to remember? Okay, especially what are the metabolic effects of growth hormone on your protein metabolism, carbohydrate metabolism, fat metabolism, okay, and what is the effect of your growth hormone on your blood sugar level, okay, blood sugar level, and how does the growth hormone will increase your protein synthesis. These are important, okay, metabolic action, role in your protein synthesis, and role in your blood sugar level, okay. Okay, over. Let's go to the next question. This is differentiate between your somatotropin, somatostatin and somatomedins. Somatotropin, somatostatin and somatomedins. Differentiate between. First, let's go for somatotropin. Somatotropin, okay, it's a growth hormone. Okay, somatostatin is a growth hormone, inhibiting hormone. Okay, and what are somatomedins? Who will tell me? Somatomedins is a substance through which growth hormone act. Okay, are your growth factors, you can term it growth factors. Okay, somatomedins are your growth factors. Yes, it is released mainly by your liver. Who said that? Okay, it is released mainly by your liver. Simran, very good. Okay, then some part by your kidneys and muscles also. Okay, one more term I have not taught you. Who can answer this? Let me see. What do you mean by the term protein sparer? Protein sparer. SPARER. What is the term meaning your protein sparer? Okay, anyone prevents use of protein for energy needs. Okay, so it decreases your protein and your amino acid catabolism. Okay, it will decrease your protein and amino acid catabolism by increasing your fat catabolism. Okay, yes, protein sparer, they decrease the protein and amino acid metabolism by increasing your fat metabolism, fat catabolism. Okay, so you have to tell me actions of FSH, LH, prolactin. Okay, FSH, in females, development of Graafian follicles, yes, and in males it helps in your spermatogenesis. Yes, okay, so we can stop with this. Next class, again after class we will go to the hormones of the posterior pituitary. Okay, so we had a small discussion. Okay, yes, so everyone need to at least read for your next examination, and thank you all for your today's class.